Well, fight fans, we all owe Ramon Cardenas a huge thank you for saving an entire weekend of fights. Fatal Fury turned into Fatal Fiasco, and that was like pure torture having to watch fights Friday night and then Canelo's performance Saturday. So I'll start with Friday night. Friday, May 2nd, the only decent performance on the main event was that of Teofimo Lopez. So out of three of the A-side fighters, Teofimo was the only one that put on a decent performance. Now, some will argue he was undermatched with Barbosa Jr., but nevertheless, Teo did what a champion should do. He picked up the pressure. Yes, he did showboat, as is his classic style, but to me that was okay because that's how Teo kind of shows disdain for his opponent by showboating a little bit. Now, the next fight was Devin Haney, which was just horrendous to watch. I mean, Devin did not come to fight. I understand that he and his corner came up with a game plan to just do as little as possible in order to get the win, but by moving around laterally, first of all, Devin showed us he doesn't have good lateral movement skills. He does not have world-class lateral movement. It's always the same tempo. He can only really move to his right. He crosses his feet when he moves to his left, which is a cardinal sin even at the amateur level. And Devin never changes the rhythm of his movement. Up next, we have, let me backtrack. And then finally, when Devin's tactic was to occasionally explode forward and land some hard shots on Ramirez. However, whenever Ramirez tried to close distance, what would Devin do? Well, he doesn't know how to fight on the inside, so he would throw up two underhooks and clinch. So in other words, Devin Haney did not come to fight. Next up, we had Ryan Garcia. And unfortunately for Ryan, his fatal flaw gave us perhaps the most exciting moment in that fight, which was that Rolly dropped Ryan with a left hook, which was supposed to be Ryan's vaunted weapon of choice. If you look at the replay, you might notice that Rolly threw a double left hook. It might even have been a triple left hook, but it was, I think, a hook to the body and then immediately double hook to the head. Nevertheless, for the remainder of the entire fight, Ryan never snapped out of first gear or zeroth gear. I don't know what gear he was in. He just continued to play patty cake with Rolly's jab hand, and he just never picked up the pace or fought with any sense of urgency. And then at the end, he seemed almost dissatisfied, but you know, he was not as disappointed as I would have expected him to be. He just conceded that Rolly did a great job. Okay, well, why didn't you figure that out earlier on in the fight when your corner was urging you to do the right thing? Notice that Derek James asked Ryan to either cut to the right, throw a little short right hand, or step pivot to his left and throw the left hook. So throughout the entire fight, Derek James was asking Ryan to do the right thing, but Ryan either couldn't or didn't want to, or just had his own ideas of what he should be doing in there. So that was a disappointing Friday night. So then we all tune in Saturday, hoping for more exciting boxing action. Now, out of all the fights that were happening Friday and Saturday, I was going to be most excited about Martin Bakoli versus F.A. Jagba. Now, I know neither of these guys are perhaps household names just yet, but I've become a huge Martin Bakoli fan in his past few fights. And I'm also not an F.A. Jagba fan, so I was hoping that Martin would knock out F.A. Jagba. But once again, in the Jagba, we have a fighter who did not come to fight. For at least 2/3 of that fight, Jagba was just satisfied to also run around the ring, use his lateral movement. Now, to his credit, Bakoli at least expressed his frustration at Jagba by standing his ground right in the center ring and asking him, gesturing to him, what's up, come here, type thing. Don't you want to fight? That's exactly what the other fighter should be doing. They should express disdain at the guy who's running around the ring. And then Martin also did the right thing in that he fought with a sense of urgency and stepped to Jagba. Now, I thought they were going to rob Bakoli, but at least that fight got a draw. So, as they say, a draw is better than a loss. Honestly, I don't know. From judging from what the fact that they gave Devin Haney a win for running around the ring, I thought they were going to do the same thing in this case and give it to Efe. I don't know, boxing politics thing. He's not American born, but he's based out of America right now. So I figured they give it to the American over the Congolese based out of Scotland, which is Martin Bakoli. Anyways, I'm very glad that Martin Bakoli was able to get the draw in that case. I don't want to see a rematch of that one, but I do hope Bakoli gets another big fight on a big card. So moving on, that was earlier on Sunday. So I stepped away from the fights for a bit just to take a break and tune back in for the main event in Saul Canelo Alvarez versus the Cuban William School. Now, again, we were disappointed because School ran around the ring. However, I will give School this much. He's a classically trained Cuban fighter. And take a look at Erisandi Lara. Take a look at Guillermo Rigondal. Even though Rigondal is a little bit different in that he'll cut to the inside with his defensive moves. He likes to do the step and pivot a little more. But, you know, School did what Cuban fighters do, which is they are incredibly slick at making their opponents miss. Now, it makes sense for a Cuban fighter to work on this skill and just sort of rejoice in being a slick defensive fighter, because traditionally all there was in Cuba, being a communist country, there's no professional ranks. Cuban amateur fighters could stay amateur their entire lifetime. For example, Felix Savant. That being said, how would you possibly endure 6 Olympic Games, 24 years at that high level? Well, you cannot get hit a lot, either in practice or in the actual fights. So as a result, hit and don't get hit. Well, they put a lot of emphasis on the not getting hit. But notice the difference with some of the Cuban footwork as opposed to the Devin Haney lack of footwork. When you move, when School was moving, he would change the rhythm up. He could move to one side or the other smoothly. Every now and again, he would switch momentarily to southpaw stance. He also very much changed the rhythm of his footsteps. He changed levels. Sometimes he would drop his hands and bend over, kind of put his hands almost on his knees just to kind of mock Canelo. But there was so much more variety in what he was doing, even though he was not trying to fight per se. His lateral movement was far outclassed Devin's and Efe's. So now we move on to Ramon Cardenas, and we all owe him a huge thank you because he actually did come to fight, unlike those other 3 fighters I just broke down. So Cardenas even managed to knock down INOUE in the 2nd round. That was unexpected for sure. Now, the inevitable did happen. INOUE did wear down Cardenas and stop him in the 7th. But at least we got 6-7 rounds of a real fight between Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. So thank you so much for Ramon Cardenas for coming to fight and making, really, the entire weekend was saved by Ramon Cardenas. Yes, INOUE performed well, but he had a B-side who came to fight, and that's the entire point. So tell me what you thought of the fights over the weekend. Tell me what you thought of Naoya INOUE's performance versus Ramon Cardenas. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please be sure to hit the subscribe and the like and hit the notification bell so you know when we drop new content. Also, be on the lookout. Next time there's a big fight card, like for example, this weekend, UFC, we will go live at least for the main card. Right, so please do hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. All right, so I will see you again in the next one.